Welcome to Lip Service for Contractors. Here you'll learn what moves the needle in your business. With your hosts, Brigham, the deep thinker, Josh, the $100 million contractor, Zach, the confused millennial, Laura, the foreigner. Lip service. It's not about dictatorship. It's about leadership. It's not about duplication. It's about innovation. It's not about stuff. It's about your people. Strap in and get ready for some lip service.
Welcome to Lip Service for Contractors. And today we've got a phenomenal show for you. It's about angry people in general, whether it's an angry caller, whether it's an angry customer, whether it's somebody who's angry inside the office, even if somebody is angry at home, how to deal with angry people, that and a whole lot more in 60 seconds.
Chances are you love what you're hearing on Lip Service for Contractors. And if you want to go deeper, have an actionable playbook, or just want to learn from some of the most successful and profitable contractors in the industry, check out Clover Marketing from Josh and Laura. They give away free, amazing information, tools, SOPs, scripts, and processes that help their family business grow to over 140 million. And those same tools have helped other contractors in the industry blow up their business and grow an average of 20% every single year. Check out growwithclover.com/free gifts. They update the free gifts section all the time, so make sure you keep coming back.
Power Selling Pros is the customer service coaching company for contractors. Their one-on-one coaching for CSRs helps contractors book at least 85% of their calls and wow more customers. And their group training for technicians helps you create a better buying experience in the home and close more sales. Visit powersellingpros.com to learn more about how you can make more money with their coaching programs.
We're talking about angry people, and I didn't think I was going to be called out publicly in front of everybody right here. But no, Brigham, take it away.
Yes, Josh, but we're gonna deal with that later, right? We're gonna do one of those sandwich
therapy. Yeah.
You give a and then you give objective feedback and then another compliment. I hate those stupid sandwiches. And no, that's not something we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into this, let's have Zach give us a rundown of what angry looks like. Why don't you give us a list of different things that people can be angry about?
Yes, happy to. Us confused millennials are very good at coming up with things to be angry about. So I'm happy to give the list. So first of all, I just need to talk to my spouse. Okay, can you please, I just need to go talk to my spouse. I can get that part for a fraction of the price on Amazon. I don't know why you're charging me so much money for this part. What do you mean it's $129 for him to come out? I just need a free quote. I already know what's wrong with the thing. Let's see, why would I pay for the guy to tell me what I already know? Again, I'm just looking for a price, bub. Just tell me how much it's gonna cost. I looked it up on YouTube and I'm pretty sure it just needs Freon. Can you please just quote me for some Freon? This invoice is definitely not what I agreed to. There's only one thing here. I could have done this myself. He was here for 3 hours and this is all wow, this is unacceptable. I need to talk to somebody. We did not agree on this pricing. He did not talk to me about this. Wait, no, there should be a warranty on this. I got this water heater installed. You put this here when I built the house. Yes, it was 5 years ago. Okay, but you put it here. You should come out to fix it, mister. Gosh, can I speak to your manager? I'm just looking at different options. All he did was change a stupid part. Why is it $1,000? That's all I got.
So I'm gonna pause it real quick. Now I know Brigham is gonna go into details on these, but I want to bring to everyone's attention. Yeah, these are angry customers, but really these are objections. And all that ranting, I actually only heard 2 objections. Only 2, period. One was price objection. They wanted a quote, and the other one was a value objection, which, by the way, is the same freaking objection for every single one of those. So you could really tackle all of them the exact same way. But I'll let Brigham. He's the expert at dealing with angry people.
So I like what both of you said, because this is, first of all, that list of Zach's is pretty darn realistic, right? That's what happens every day. Everybody should be going, holy cow, that is that is a list of the things that we deal with on a regular basis. But the thing that we should consider first and foremost is it's something that the customer is feeling. Okay, anger is an emotion. We don't live in time. We don't live in specific places. We have a watch on our wrist, but that doesn't mean we live in time. What we do is we live in our thoughts and our feelings, and we live in our experiences. Life is very experiential. It's not sequential for human beings. And so our objective is to look at this and go, okay, he's angry, meaning he is feeling, or she is feeling very, very upset. All right, cool. So what do we do with that? How do we address that? Well, we address emotion with principles, okay? A set of principles. And we can definitely go into the pattern for excellence like we have in the past, where we want to be positive and we want to be confident. We want to listen and show the customer that we're listening. We want to show them that we care. We want to give our attention before we take information, and we want to ask questions, and this could be internal questions. One of those internal questions could be, what's missing here? Right? This customer is angry because of a specific situation where they weren't treated well, or they were slighted, or they were ripped off, or whatever. What's missing? What's missing? What's the right answer? And then respond accordingly. Now, in order to be able to do these things, you've got to be very socially aware in the moment, not get offended, not get upset. And just be very, very valuable in, and it happens to be another one of our principles is be valuable by exuding all these other principles. And of course, being grateful for the opportunity to work through this, as opposed to them going online and saying you suck, or telling all their friends in their community that you're awful. They're actually giving you the opportunity to make it right by addressing with you directly. And so if we can take an angry customer, the very first thing I like to do is take ownership. Now, I realize that it's probably not you that took a baseball bat to that air conditioner or that furnace, right? It probably wasn't you. You may have fixed a part or a piece of that system that worked for a week, but because it's an old jalopy, it probably isn't working because of another reason. You got to go out and address that and hope that you can sell a new system, as opposed to keeping the old thing going for another 2 months. But the first thing you want to do is just take ownership and go, wow, this is not a good situation. Now, if you had any fault in the matter, agree that it wasn't a good situation. All right. You can say that it was awful. That's terrible. You can say that that's unacceptable. In fact, that would help them in a lot of ways. But here's the most important thing. Once we take ownership and once we agree with them, right, we empathize with them, the next step is to go over the step-by-step ways you're going to correct this situation. All right. And what you do after you go over those step-by-step ways that you're going to correct this situation, you then simply say, hey, look, here's what I ask. And I know it's a big ask, but I'm going to ask you that you'll judge us on how I take care of the situation from here on out. Because I will tell you that this isn't who we are. What you experienced before is not who we are. It's not who I am as a person. And it's important that you know that. And reiterate the steps one more time, just so they know that these are the steps you're going to take to correct the matter. Now, it's one thing for you to be able to do that. It's another for your team to be able to do that. Because here's the thing. The last thing you want is to use your entire day dealing with disgruntled customers. And you guys, this is what we see a lot of. You want to be working on your business and not in it. And this is one of the things that gets you sucked in. Why? Because the minute the CSR has an angry customer, what do? They transfer it to the owner, right? Technician has an angry customer. What do? They call the owner and they say, dude, you got to come on site and deal with this. What do we do, or how do we go about training our team to be able to handle these things so that we can work on the business as opposed to in it?
It's not just training. It's also, giving them power to fix it too, right? Your CSR, now this is a controversial thought process and a lot of owners don't like this, but I could promise you it pays for itself 100 times over and makes your life so much better. Give the ability for CSRs to discount. up to $20, give away movie tickets. You know what I mean? If only after, like, if that's not enough, now you have to train them not to give it away instantly, but to give away $20 is way better than you having to get on the conversation, right?
Yes.
I used to tell this to people all the time. Like, if a complaint made it all the way to me, the honest truth is, whatever they ask for, I'm going to give. And I've given some crazy shit away. To be clear, but it's worth it, because an upset customer, maybe we'll never do business with this person again, depending on what that problem is. But I'm going to give them whatever they want to make them go away. I just will. I'm not going to fight it, because I know how much time, money, and effort it takes to fight an upset customer. It's not worth it. Never does it pencil out. So it should never make it to me, because you should have already given them what they wanted, right? But there has to be an escalation scale. A CSR should be able to give away up to a certain point. CSR manager, an office manager should be able to give away a certain point, and then the VP or whatever, depends on your organization, right? But you have to empower the lower level is the wrong word, but you have to empower your front line to actually solve these issues. So it's not just talk, right? Talking them down is how you solve most problems, but it's not how you solve all problems. And if I could create an amazing customer experience by giving $20 back, I'll do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And most of the time, it's not a money thing that solves the problem. What it is it's empathizing, showing active listening, showing that you care, giving them your complete attention. What they need more than anything is to be understood. You know, they're angry, they're upset. And part of the reason why they're angry and upset is because, you know what? You don't get it.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, you're not going to get very far. So number one, you've got to be able to do it yourself. And then number two, you've got to be able to take that knowledge that you've gained to handle or to deal with angry people, and make sure that your team has got it. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those things that keep you from growing.
You know, there's this amazing book called Crucial Conversations. Now I'm the one referencing books.
Yeah. I was like, what? We're mentioning a book and it wasn't Laura?
Yeah. Okay, but Crucial Conversations, best thing I learned from that book is the most persuasive thing that you have, the most persuasive, powerful thing you have when you're dealing with a crucial conversation with an angry customer, angry employee. The most persuasive thing you have is the facts. It's the bare facts. And too many people, when a customer gets angry or an employee gets angry, when anyone in life gets angry, they try to understand the other person's emotions sometimes, but usually they're only focused on their own emotion, and they just talk about it. Well, you made me feel this way and I feel like this, and well, if this wouldn't have happened, and they get defensive. But the most persuasive thing you can do is just start with the facts. You know, so if I understand you correctly, this happened and this happened and this happened, and this is what we have on the record. This is what our guy said went down. Because the facts don't cause controversy, right? They create understanding between people. And then once you lay out the facts and have that all out there, you can start to talk about what the interpretation of it was, what the emotion behind it was. But facts are the most persuasive thing you have to work with when you're dealing with it.
I don't know why this just popped into my head, but when you were going in the beginning as the most powerful thing you could have to persuade people, I just like in my head, you just like popped in my head, I'm like, he's going to say sexuality. It's like,
yeah, almost.
Yeah, Laura, you're muted. You've muted yourself. So she has no part in this conversation.
I said that works too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't use sexuality. It does not work.
No.
I disagree with this. I mean, it works. Let me take that back. It works, but don't do it anyway. That's not what we're talking about.
No. Yeah. He said that book seems solid. It actually has a ton of reviews on Amazon. So
how about that?
What are the odds it's in our Amazon book? In our I can't even think of the name of that. Yeah, Audible. By the end of this
I think it is actually. It's something I should read, but I don't think it's as applicable as something I need right now. But I bet you it is for like CSRs. It could be like required reading. I don't know. Making them read mightn't be ideal, but encouraging them to.
No.
You know what I'd like to do with Zach's list is I'd like to unpack it, and and let's see if we can pick out some of the most common ones. And guys, we're going to provide ways to address it, but remember that this isn't the way to address it. It is a way to address it. All right. Just look at the principles themselves. Okay. The principles themselves are: number one, own it. Number two, empathize with the customer. And then number three, go over some steps that you're going to take to correct the matter. All right. So those are the things that we want to do. And don't forget that last part, which is if you'll judge us on what we do from here on out, I'd really appreciate that. Why? Because what you experienced is simply not who we are, and it's not who I am as an owner. And it's okay to be able to empower your team to be able to do the same thing. You know, a service manager can own his department. A CSR manager can own their department. A dispatch manager can own their department, and they can own that situation. Yeah. So
let's add a little caveat to that, if you're okay.
Please.
Not only how to resolve the issue when the customer is already mad at us, but let's come up with a solution for that specific thing so you do not get that upset customer.
Ooh, I like
the prequel, if you will.
Like that. I like that. We should definitely do that. Okay. Zach, pick one for us.
All right, let's go with this is not what we agreed to. When a customer claims that the technician did not communicate the price, he did not tell them what was going to go into this, and they are outraged because they did not anticipate this invoice.
Should we start with the prequel? Or I think the prequel is the easiest one to start with.
Prequel that.
Yeah, let's start from how to prevent it and then how to address it.
So the really obvious thing is make sure you're talking to the customer about everything before you do it. That's obvious, right? And we all do that, or we all hope to do that. But let's make sure there's actually a system in place to guarantee that happens. So obviously there should be a pre-approval with a signature. In general, I would love for you to do an audio version as well. And that would be in their email after the version, or a video version if you're kind of a badass. And that technician's describing everything he's going to do, what happened, breaking down the entire process. But if you have a signature, if you have a verbal approval, and it's well explained and well documented, meaning we're not having them write it out on a piece of paper. We're creating an automated system. When they change the contactor, here are the 30 things that happens when you change a contactor. So anybody who has an invoice right now that just says replace contactor $400, I'm talking specifically to you. You do way more than replace a contactor when you do that. You pull apart the system, unbutton and take apart the panel. You unhang the original contactor. You remove all the leads. You clean the leads. You replace a new contactor in. You rehang it. You clean up around it, and then you button back up the system and clean it out and check it. You check the electrical, the whole. There's like 30 things you do. Spell them out so you don't get these complaints, and it will solve your problem. 99.99% of the time. There's always crazy customers, and you're not going to build a system to tackle everything in the world, but you could tackle the vast majority. So now we didn't do that, and this customer is pissed off because at the very least we probably explained it, but we didn't explain it well. Brigham, all you.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for just a minute. What you're saying, let me just summarize it. It is all about having a process that you've practiced over and over and over again to prevent things like this from happening. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And also the ability to show that that's exactly what they asked for and what they agreed to. Correct. Now, we don't do that to say, well, we don't do that to be controversial, right? In fact, if we were to come across as controversial, as if we knew and they didn't, or if we're smart and they're dumb, is that going to help?
Let me change one word there. Not controversial, adversarial.
Even better put. Yes, adversarial. So it's not about that. It's about sticking with the facts. Now, you still can take ownership for them being confused. Right? Because your goal is twofold. A, have a process that works. right? It works every time. That provides checks and balances, but also a customer who completely understands what they're getting. So it's okay to take ownership of their confusion, of their misunderstanding. And because every customer is different, it's okay for you to say, hey, look, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from. It sounds like you wanted X, we provided Y. Even though you agreed to, we provided Y because you did agree to it. However, I can understand that you could be upset because it's obviously not what you had in mind or what you envisioned. And then the next step is where would you like to go from here? How can we correct the matter? And let's just find out if he will work with us or she will work with us to build a solution together. So when it is not your fault, that's how I would approach it, is I would approach it with the two of us working together to come with a solution that'll work for everyone. Right? So that's how I'd approach that one, as I'd work together. Let's build it together. I'd empathize, right? Take ownership of the way that person feels, empathize, and then let's build together some steps that are going to be appealing to you to move forward and correct the situation.
But this seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but like this is after the fact. They're complaining.
Yeah.
And they've already done it and they've already paid, right? There's no steps to build together, right? Am I being goofy?
So let's talk about those steps that you could take. The steps that we could take is you help them see the, how do I put this? Kind of the nonsense, their own nonsense in a very nice way. Okay. So here's what we intended. Here's what we planned. Here's what you agreed to. I realized that I realized that there's a misunderstanding here. And you know what? If there was a misunderstanding, I apologize. What steps would you like to take to correct the matter at this point? We've already installed the system. We've already provided the service. What would you like to do now to feel good about this? Because I want you to feel good about this. I really do. And I'm willing to help. So let's see if we could work on it together. You said earlier that, if $20 would solve it, that might be something you put in your back pocket. If you throw in some sort of product, like an extra filter or something that doesn't cost you a lot of money, where you could fix it that way. You could also have the promise for future services like service agreements and coming out and make sure it continues to run the way it should, and maybe giving a discount on that service agreement if they move forward with it. It could be any number of things, but the intent is to create it together so that he feels like he got something, or at least that he felt understood and that we did everything we could to make it right.
Gotcha.
Some of the
do is go, sorry, buddy, deal with it, right? And you guys, dealers do this more often than not, which is why I always tell them, please don't answer the phones. Don't touch the phones. You know what's going to happen. Customer's going to yell at you. You're going to yell at them, and that relationship's going to be over. Let's not do that.
Yeah, some of the specific terminology that we teach when we are helping contractors address angry customers is, first of all, thank you so much for the feedback. It only makes us better. You've done the right thing by calling. Let them know they're correct in calling you and complaining, even if they're not, right? Even if it is something that they misunderstood, let them know you've done the right thing by calling to let us know about this situation. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to take care of it. Please judge us for how we do moving forward from today. You're not responsible for any corrections that we need to make on our part that we're responsible for. I'm going to take very detailed notes about everything we're discussing here, and I'm going to bring it up with my manager and the rest of the team so we can make sure this never happens again. That way you get the manager out of the conversation. You don't need to pass it on to someone. You can just handle it there on the call. Lots of specific terminology there you can use, though, to put the customer at bay before you get to a solution, whether it be a discount.
All right. Good answers. Let's do a different type of complaint here, Zach. Angry customer number 2.
All right, angry customer number 2. Let's see here. So I'll give you a couple options. You guys tell me which one you like best. So I can get that part for a fraction of your price on Amazon.
Sure.
Or you want to do that one?
Let's do that one. That one's easy.
Okay.
We've already addressed that. That's the exact same complaint as before. It's a price and value complaint. So you solve it the same way. If they think it's a contactor and they look at online, or contactors aren't that common, people don't look that up, but let's go plumbing, because plumbing is super obvious, right? I could get a water here at Home Depot for $400. If you've put on your invoice and you've explained that I'm going to replace your water here for $2,500 or $3,000 or $4,000, and that's all you've explained, you are going to get that complaint regularly and often. If you explain every step that you do, the warranty you do, the follow-up, the process, how you stand behind the work, how you have a no lemon guarantee, how you're going to put a drain pan underneath it to make sure it never has any issues, how you do step 1 through 45 on the install, you're going to get way less of those complaints. It's very important, not just to explain verbally, but it's on an invoice and it's emailed and sent to them. Invoice, if you do it by audio and video, even better. You got to do both if you're going to do audio or video. The biggest reason is you could sell, and this happens all the time, all the time. You got that person at home and they agree to the work, and then the husband or the wife comes home 3 hours later, you're gone, and they say, so it was $4,000. They were only here 2 hours. What the hell is that? A water heater? I could get that for $400 at the Home Depot, right? So make sure it's documented, but it's the same problem. I don't know if that was helpful.
Oh, extremely helpful. It's extremely helpful. Again, you're just unpacking the value there, right? We want to be able to create value to prevent, right? The prequel. We want to prevent things like those types of concerns from happening in the first place. Hey, I can get this for a fraction of the cost on Amazon. Again, that is a symptom of us not building value and showing that value while we're out there. So great stuff.
So it sounds like a lot of these things can be resolved and prevented with significantly better communication than companies are giving right now, right? Significantly better expectations up front of all the details of what a technician is going to do in the home. Detailed invoices, notes, written notes recorded with your voice, videos recorded with details. The more proof you can provide of all the work you did, the better. But Josh, I'm curious from your experience, what type of angry customer concern has troubled you the most? What has proved to be more difficult than you would have expected to resolve?
So, I mean, everybody gets complaints. The bigger you are, the more business you do, the more complaints you get. And that's just a matter of life. It is what it is. If you do, 1,000 calls a day, you are going to get complaints every single day. Now, it may be a very small percentage compared to other companies, but if you get 2 to 3 complaints out of 1,000 calls, I think that's a pretty big win. Some people would say, hey, you get 2 to 3 complaints a day. I'm like, yeah, well, I run 1,000 calls. It is what it is. But there's no specific thing that, sticks out in my mind, like we have an issue with this. Have we had issues in the past with lots of issues? Yes. But when things consistently happen, we create systems to make sure they don't happen again. What we struggle with is the unreasonable. Because some people, no matter who they are or what kind of amazing service you do, some people just aren't great people. And you have to live with that. And you have to accept that. And as it sounds, you have to pay those people to go away. I remember this specific story, and Paul may not love me telling you the story, and every contractor that hears this gets pissed off. But this is 100% true story, and this is from Parker & Sons. There was once a lady that we refunded for an install, a full refund, that we did 0 work for.
Wow.
And we collected
What?
$0 for. So here's what happened. This lady was a lawyer. She was an interesting person. She's on our do not service list for obvious reasons. Laura, you're muted. But what happened is she asked us out to give a quote on a new system. We went out and we gave a quote. And she really liked the salesperson, really liked the system we suggested, but decided not to use us. So we collected $0 and she went with another company. However, that other company, she ended up having them switch the recommendation because she liked our presentation and she wanted to go with the same system and the same install that we recommended. So this other company got the same system that we would have put in. Totally fine. Things happen, not the end of the world. Now, what happened is every system, no matter how well it's built, occasionally is going to have issues. And unfortunately, this system had an issue from the manufacturer. Nothing can be done about it. Nothing can be predicted. Nothing was wrong with the install necessarily. I don't know that for sure, but the system was just had an issue straight from the manufacturer, had a fault in it, right? So what she could proceed to do was she launched a BB complaint and sued the manufacturer, the company that installed the system, us for recommending it, and it was a Costco lead. So Costco as well. So she sued 4 people off of one system, 2 of them, us and Costco, that had nothing to do with this business, right? So a lot of people freak out and they hear this and like, what a jerk. And it's like, yeah, no, this lady was a jerk. Clearly the lawsuit, she wasn't going to win. And that was pretty easy to get her to drop that. But there was a BBB complaint. And the BBB complaint is a big deal. Whether you believe in the BBB or not, I can tell you that customers believe in the BBB. So I have to care about it. So what we ended up doing is I'm putting in air quotations for those, just listening, refunding money we didn't collect, by the way, refunding the entire cost of the install to make this lady go away. So I think it was something like $11,000. We gave this lady $11,000 when we did 0 work and collected 0 money. And a lot of people hear that story and they're like, oh my God, you got ripped off. How could you do that? Why didn't you fight that? And it's like, well, you know how long this lady was a lawyer, right? She didn't have to pay for legal services. She was going to take us to court like this, even though there's no base to it and she would have lost. Do you think it would cost me more in legal fees and time and effort? By the way, that BBB complaint's not going away, right? I had to make that go away. So what we did is we had her sign something that she was never allowed to use us. She was on a do not service list, and that she was never allowed to speak negatively about us again in any format, right? And for that $11,000, we got ripped off, and that's what happened. We got ripped off, but it was a good investment. Sometimes you have to pay terrible people. So that's the thing we struggled with, where people that are just totally unreasonable, unrealistic, and you're going to run into those people occasionally.
So what do we learn from that story? I know that some contractors, as they listen to that, they're going to be like, oh man, that's ridiculous. I can't believe it.
It is ridiculous. I agree.
Yeah. So, but let's just look at it objectively. Number one, things like that are going to happen. Why? Because there are just some people in this world that aren't great. And we can—
I prefer the word interesting, but yes.
Yeah. We can learn from that experience, right? We won't work with those types of people, or specifically that person again. And we hope not to deal with those types of people in the future. But one thing we want to be careful about is having a situation like that, and then that situation make us hard. In other words, change our state of being so that we become much more skeptical of everyone else. This happens in CSR departments as well, where you hear a type of customer that gets on the phone, and the minute that CSR senses, oh my gosh, I'm about to have a really bad experience based on the last experience I had, and they paint a bad picture of that customer, and they lose the opportunity, right? So all that marketing, all that investment to make the phone ring is now gone because you're judging the customer off of a previous experience. So do not let experiences like this make you skeptical or less faithful in humanity, is all I would say to that.
It's therefore important to not hire anybody that has the potential to be a hothead. And I'm sure that might be difficult to see in the interview process. But if CSRs are continually dealing with the public, it's only a matter of time before they've someone unreasonable that calls and they have to deal with. And if a person has this tendency to meet that angry person right where they're at, that in and of itself will cause that bad BBB review, that bad Yelp review. And it's more costly to keep a bad employee that is unable to deal with those scenarios effectively than to actually get rid of that employee and have one less CSR, because a bad BBB complaint can really cause you a lot of trouble. And yeah, you can sometimes pay for them to go away, but sometimes you can't pay for them to go away. Yeah, and they cost you a lot of money and potential many customers.
Yeah, nothing is worse for an organization than someone with a negative attitude. And an angry attitude is ultimately a negative attitude. Mm-hmm. And to Brigham's point, it is really important that you always, whether you're a CSR, this is especially true for salespeople. Hey, I don't like this neighborhood because they don't have money. It's like, give me the call. I bet you I'll sell it. I'll bet you any amount, you name the amount of money, I'll sell it. Because other people think this too, and I'm going to be the only one with a fresh mind. And I've done that straight up to salespeople. And I'm work for the organization. I go in there and I pitch the homeowner and sell it right in front of them and rub it in their face afterwards. Right? Always reset before you go in. Every customer is an opportunity. No one calls us for fun. They need help. They need something, especially on the sales side. Like, no, you know, it'd be really great. Let's have a salesperson come spend 2 hours with us in the middle of a Tuesday, and let's just hear about AC units. Like that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, they're interested and find out what works for them. But yeah, anyway, that was a tangent-ish, but yeah.
No, it's good. Bottom line, very unique situation that sometimes happens, and don't let it affect who you are. Angry callers in general, don't let them get to you. Don't let them affect you as a leader, as a person. I think those things are really important for us to address, or at least mention.
So I want to tell one more story, and this is a extreme unreasonable, but this one didn't cost me money. So here in Phoenix, we used to run a campaign called we called the Melvin campaign. It was "Be No Melvins on Your Job," and Melvin was the anti Parker and Sons. He was the slob, the guy who showed up late. You can look up our commercials online. They're older, so the production quality is not as great as they would be now, but they're really effective commercials. Here in Phoenix, it really grew legs, and like people call each other Melvin when they do stupid things, which is amazing and unbelievable. That's a totally different story. It's a great advertising campaign we came up with. But there's a negative effect to naming a bad experience. And what happened was, I was running the marketing, and every once in a while we would get a call from a customer whose name was Melvin, or their family's name was Melvin, or my grandfather's name was Melvin, right? And like some of these were just so upset because we weren't really, it was so extreme that it wasn't a real person. It was very obvious it wasn't a real person, right? But it's hammered, right? Like people, it became part of the culture here in Phoenix to call people Melvins when they did stupid things. And I remember one phone call, I went through the CSR, and this lady was so upset, the CSR couldn't take it, and ended up coming up to me. And I remember this lady was married to a guy named Melvin who worked in construction, which is not ideal, right? Because it plays right into what we do. And they had 2 kids, and I'm on the phone with her, and she's reaming me. And she's like, my kids don't respect my husband because his name's Melvin, and he think he's a screw up. He got fired from his job because his name is Melvin, and we're going to get a divorce. And it's all because of your stupid commercials, right? like
very reasonable individual.
What did I do? And I remember I had this like 15-minute conversation, and some people you just can't talk down. And after this 15 conversation, I got her to be more calm, but she was really still like upset at the core. She wasn't upset about me anymore. And I remember at the end of it, I totally copped out. And I go, after like 15 minutes, I'm like, honestly, that was the name our marketing team put together. And I'll have a conversation with them. And the entire time I'm like, no, that I'm the marketing team. it's like I need to get off this phone call. This lady's crazy. Hope she doesn't watch this podcast, but yeah.
There's and inevitably you're going to be dealing with, for lack of a better word, nut jobs. And there was this cool idea that was actually thought to me by Mark Atherstone. He is like a leading trainer for the Wrench Group. And he says before you get to the home, pull over and make sure that you get your head right, and anything that went on from the last call or anything that has been bothering you, put it to bed. And it's only when your mindset is right that you should proceed to the home. So therefore, I would encourage techs to ask themselves, like, what strategies could they use to get their mindset right before they proceed to the home. And Josh will tell you a story of a tech that used to work in Parker and Sons that had this one song. And it was this one song that made him feel good, that set him up to be in this solid mood to go into the home and not just be in a conducive state for the customer, but if you're in a conducive state, you're going to sell more. So yeah, I think that is just something cool that Mark taught me, amid obviously many other things.
And
Mark's
like the best salespeople do that without really realizing it. You could do it purposely. It's called anchoring. I think we've talked about that on the show.
I think so.
Anchoring is incredibly powerful. Do it, whether you're a service technician, a salesperson, or even a CSR or whatever you're doing. If you're customer facing, anchoring is pretty powerful. I think this would be, I'm throwing this out and no one's prepared for this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's fun.
You're such a
let's
rebel.
do this. I know. So I just shared 2 incredibly complicated, difficult, crazy customers. Do me a favor. If you listen to this podcast and you love it, shoot us an email. Why don't we make it Laura? Send an email to laura@growwithclover.com. Share your crazy customer story, and we'll pick 2 or 3 of the most crazy. We'll actually have you on the podcast and let's talk about and share it because I think it's super interesting and fun. We all have had this pain before, and we all will continue to have this pain occasionally. And I don't know. I mean, in retrospect, it's a lot of fun. It didn't feel like fun when it was happening, but it's fun.
Well, those are the stories, man. You want to have those stories down the road. You know, it's not fun to look back and be like, oh, it was. You know,
everything went perfect. It was easy.
Yeah, it was great. No problems. That's not
What
fun.
can happen is that it sinks you. This is outside of the industry, but I grew up in like the guest house industry. My mom did awesome, incredible reviews. She got 1 bad review and she quit. She quit the company. Like it was our company. Like she stopped running the B&B and like she just stopped. So obviously that's extremely extreme. But just don't let it sink you. People are unreasonable. We're dealing with the public, and the whole grudge purchase thing is not going to always attract people who are delighted. Like no one's calling you and they're like, oh, this is great, this broke. And that's something I think.
Let me make one comment just to 100% protect myself here. Fiona, that's my mother-in-law. I did not tell her to say this, and I love you very much. Don't be mad at me.
She just won't hear this episode. Maybe not. Episode 8. Mom, you're not allowed to listen to it.
Yeah,
no Fiona's allowed.
Yeah, it just shuts off. I don't know why. Just after
I clearly have a resilient mother. Sorry, Mom.
That's beautiful. I think that's a great idea, Josh. We should definitely do that.
Yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Well, I think we've
wrap
had
it up?
a few angry customers. Let's wrap it up.
All right. This is a fun one. I feel like we could go on forever with this episode. And one more book recommendation, by the way, Never Split the Difference.
Great book.
Chris Voss,
The
former
negotiation book.
hostage negotiator. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about dealing with angry people? This guy's stories about dealing with terrorists who think they're the Messiah is fascinating. So
Josh, real quick, before you go, on that book, there was some concept that you shared with me from that book recently, not recently, like last year at some point. Can you remember what that concept is?
There's so many concepts from the book.
There was one concept that I remember you coming home and being like, oh, listen to this.
I think it's when you're negotiating, you always kind of answer in the form of a question. Like, it was talking about specifically about like, if you wanted a raise, I'll give you a $5,000 raise. Well, how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah. How am I supposed? Well, you see, my expenses are this. So how am I supposed to make it with that
How am
kind
I
of?
supposed to do that?
Ask them.
And silence.
And
Total silence.
And then let
answer for
them get them on like thinking like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. How can you do that? Like, maybe that's not enough, right?
Yeah. And absolute silence. Ask that question and literally.
If you're not watching,
quiet.
Brigham's got a face right now, and he's like, Zach, you son.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you did to me.
I'm going to be
All
emailing
these
Brigham for a
examples.
performance review after this episode. So. All right. So to wrap things up, there are a lot of reasons customers get angry at us. We went through a huge list at the beginning. And to Josh's point, many of them are the same underlying concern. It's just a lack of value, a lack of communication from us to them. So we need to be better at that. We need to be better at letting customers know what the expectation is before we serve them. We need to be extremely thorough and detailed with our notes, with our communication with them before, during, and after our service calls. Write your notes, record your notes via voice, record them via video. Leave no doubt that you have earned the money you are charging your customers. That'll help you prevent a plethora of angry customer situations. On top of that, own it is the principle Brigham taught us. Own it when a customer calls you and gets angry. Don't blame, don't point the finger, own the situation, take full responsibility. That's the quickest way to get a customer to de-escalate. So prevent the situations, resolve them, document, detail everything. It's inevitable you're going to get angry customers, and share your angry customer stories with us. Comment on our social media posts, send Laura an email at laura@growthclover.com with your crazy customer stories. And we'd love to hear from you.
Really quick, we have a one-sheeter step-by-step like playbook on how to create an amazing customer experience, which would help alleviate some of these like irrational people calling and just talking nonsense about stuff that either didn't happen or just unreasonable stuff. By having an amazing customer experience, you can kind of mitigate that a little bit. So you're welcome to reach out to me too with that email, and I'm happy to send that one sheet your way. So with that said, Zach, thank you for the summary. I actually just kind of sat back from most of that and just observed, because I thought there was lots of fun stuff going on there. So thank you guys for listening. Like I always said, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording it. Always reach out with questions. This podcast, us helping you goes beyond this podcast. So reach out to us. We're here to help. And thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day and lives to hear us go on about some nonsense that hopefully helped you out. Thank you guys. Until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to Lip Service for Contractors. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to leave us a review in the App Store, and don't forget to share with your friends. Ideas are cheap. Implementation is what separates the winners from the watchers. Go out and implement these ideas. See you on the next episode of Lip Service for Contractors.